So let me ask you this. How many female inmates have been sexually assaulted by biological males who BOP has housed in female prisons?
Senator, I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Do you have an obligation to protect those female prisoners?
Absolutely.
And so have you examined how many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that BOP has placed in the prison with those women?
I have not, Senator, but I will tell you that safety and security and the placement of every individual in our custody is top of mind and the most important.
So if it's top of mind, why haven't you examined how many have been sexually assaulted? This is an obvious question. If you put a man with male genitals, with a male body in a female prison who's a convicted sex offender, it's not rocket science that there's a real risk those women are going to be victims of sexual assault. How is it possible that you haven't even asked the question, how many women are getting sexually assaulted because of the policies of the Biden administration?
Okay, I just caught a clip of this and I had to pull up the full hearing. Because what you're about to watch is one of the most frustrating, eye-opening exchanges I have seen come out of a Senate hearing in a long time. Senator Ted Cruz is sitting across from the director of the Bureau of Prisons, asking questions that somebody should have been asking ages ago. Real consequences, real people, real women behind bars, and a government official who either doesn't know the answers or doesn't want to give them. Honestly, I'm not sure which one is worse. I know Cruz is a polarizing figure, but politics aside, watch what happens in this video. Watch how he presses. Watch the non-answers. Then ask yourself, if this were your mother, your sister, your daughter in one of these facilities, would you be satisfied with, "I'll get back to you"? Watch the full video. Then come back because I have a lot to say. And if this is the kind of content that makes you think, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We don't shy away from the hard conversations here. Let's go.
Ms. Peters, one of President Biden's first acts after taking office was to issue Executive Order 14006, mandating that contracts with privately owned detention facilities not be renewed. The order is intended, quote, to decrease incarceration levels by reducing profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government's reliance on privately operated criminal detention facilities. This order has created many unintended consequences, including the closing of the Willacy County Regional Detention Facility in Raymondville, Texas. The decision has had tremendous negative consequences with little to no obvious upside, forcing inmates to travel hundreds of miles round trip for court appearances, impacting the accessibility of legal counsel, and making family visits significantly more difficult. It has also caused administration issues for the prison system and harmed the local economy by eliminating these jobs. Literally every stakeholder that has a role to play in these cases is opposed to this Biden policy. That includes the defense bar, the federal public defender, the U.S. attorney, even the federal bench. All have publicly asked for this policy to be rescinded. Unfortunately, as with the open borders under Joe Biden, the Biden administration doesn't give a damn about how their woke policies actually affect South Texas or the lives of regular people. Ms. Peters, how has Executive Order 14006 impacted the Bureau of Prisons' ability to house inmates, and has it been a negative impact or a positive impact?
Thank you, Senator. So we were able to come into compliance with the executive order the end of last November and bring in those individuals from those facilities that were closed, and we were able to safely absorb them into our current population.
Okay, that you didn't answer my question. How has it impacted the BOP, and has it been positive or negative?
Senator, I don't know that I can put it in a positive or negative category. What I can
say
is
the defense bar and the U.S. attorney and the federal bench, are they all wrong?
I'm not familiar with their opinions and their reasons for opposing.
Okay, unfortunately, you're illustrating that the Biden administration doesn't care about South Texas if you don't even know the impact it's having on all the stakeholders. All right, let's shift to the topic Senator Lee was just asking you about, because I have to say I found your answers to him thoroughly unacceptable. The 2022 Transgender Offender Manual, issued by the Bureau of Prison through your predecessors, reverted back to the Obama administration's initial designation and housing programming assignments. Notably, biological sex at birth is no longer the controlling determine it. Right now today, how many biological males are housed in female prisons under BOP?
Senator, I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Why don't
but
you?
We could look at them and get back to you.
Why don't you?
I
Did
just
you-
don't have them top of mind.
Did you know you were going to be asked that today?
No, Senator.
Oh, you didn't. Have you been asked that before?
On the record, Senator?
Yes.
I don't recall.
You were asked a year ago in writing, and you failed to answer it in writing. You knew damn well you're going to be asked it today, but you don't want to answer it. Senator Lee asked, why don't you report the numbers? You don't report the numbers because you don't want people to know the numbers. So the fact that you sit there and say, I don't know, he said 1,300. Is that number in the ballpark?
1,300 as it relates to which category, Senator?
Biological males housed in female prisons.
No, that would be a much larger number.
Which is a larger number?
So the number of individuals who even identify as transgender at the Federal Bureau of Prisons is around 1,700. And the number of individuals that are housed in institutions not conforming with their biological sex are very low.
Very low. Are we talking 100? Are we talking 10?
We will look at the numbers. We're talking less than 10.
So your testimony here, I just want to understand, your testimony here today is there are fewer than 10 biological males, human beings that were born male, who are housed in female prisons. Is that your testimony?
That is my understanding, and I will confirm that and get back to you.
Okay. Of the 1,700 prisoners you referenced, how many of them are convicted sex offenders?
I do not know the answer to that, Senator.
Are you aware that Great Britain's numbers, according to a January 2022 report, is the proportion of male-born transgender offenders who are sex offenders in the UK prison system is roughly 60%, significantly higher than the 18% of the general population. Are those numbers consistent with the American numbers?
I'm not familiar with Great Britain's numbers.
So let me ask you this. How many female inmates have been sexually assaulted by biological males who BOP has housed in female prisons?
Senator, I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Do you have an obligation to protect those female prisoners?
Absolutely.
And so have you examined how many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that BOP has placed in the prison with those women?
I have not, Senator, but I will tell you that safety and security and the placement of every individual in our custody is top of mind and the most important.
So if it's top of mind, why haven't you examined how many have been sexually assaulted? This is an obvious question. If you put a man with male genitals, with a male body in a female prison who's a convicted sex offender, it's not rocket science that there's a real risk those women are going to be victims of sexual assault. How is it possible that you haven't even asked the question, how many women are getting sexually assaulted because of the policies of the Biden administration?
Senator, I assure you that safety and security of these individuals are top of mind. And if
So you haven't asked the question?
If there was misconduct, those individuals would be held accountable.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
All right, we're back. You've seen it. And if you're anything like me, you're sitting there wondering how that woman still has her job. Let's start with Executive Order 14006. Phasing out private detention facilities on paper sounds reasonable. I'll give them that. But here's where it completely falls apart. When every single stakeholder in the system is telling you this policy is causing harm, you don't just ignore that. The defense bar is against it. The U.S. attorney is against it. The federal judges are against it. That is not a partisan pylon. That is a consensus across the entire legal system saying this is not working. Cruz nails it. Inmates traveling hundreds of miles for court appearances. Families who can't afford to make that trip. Overworked public defenders. Real disruption. And what does the BOP director say? We were able to safely absorb them. That's it. No acknowledgement of the chaos. No accountability. Just bureaucratic language designed to make it sound like nothing happened. Cruz pushes her, is it positive or negative, and she won't answer. That tells you everything. Then we get to the transgender housing policy. And I want to be clear up front. This is not about hatred toward any group of people. This is a specific policy question with serious consequences for vulnerable women in federal prison. That is the frame. Cruz asks a simple question. How many biological males are currently housed in female prisons? She doesn't know. didn't bring the numbers. And Cruz points out she was asked this exact question in writing a year ago and never answered it. That is not forgetfulness. That is a pattern. You don't repeatedly fail to report numbers you want people to see. She eventually says fewer than 10. Cruz then asks how many of them are convicted sex offenders. She doesn't know. He brings up UK data showing roughly 60% of male-born transgender prisoners in Britain are sex offenders, compared to 18% of the general prison population. She's not familiar with those numbers either. And then Cruz asks the question everyone watching wanted answered. How many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that the BOP placed in those prisons? She hasn't looked into it. In the same breath, she says safety and security are top of mind. Top of mind, but you have never once asked whether women are being assaulted under your own policy. That is not top of mind. That is a talking point. Cruz is right to press here. This is an accountability hearing, and the person accountable is giving non-answers to questions with real human victims attached to them. If you run a system responsible for the safety of incarcerated women, and you have never asked how many of them have been assaulted as a direct result of a policy you are enforcing, that is a failure. Plain and simple. Some people will say Cruz is grandstanding. Maybe there's an element of performance in any Senate hearing. But the substance of what he is asking? Nobody has a good answer for it. Not Peters. Not the administration. Nobody. Because the answers aren't good. At the end of the day, I don't care what your politics are. If you believe women in prison deserve safety, and you believe government officials should be able to answer basic questions about the policies they enforce, then you watched this video and felt exactly what I felt. Cruz came in with specific questions and a clear moral argument. The other side of that table had nothing. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Cruz out of line? Was Peters just doing her best? I want to hear from you, especially if you disagree. Drop a like if this made you think, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.